I would like to now take a minute to just share the Online Accessibility Center statement with you all that serves as a reminder for resources available to students. So, your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this event that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center at oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430, or the Campus Accessibility Center at cac@snhu.edu or by phone at 603-644-3118 as soon as possible. Please provide at least 1 week advance notice to coordinate event accommodations. So at this time, I will kick it over to Becca to talk a little bit about Global Days of Service, which is how you all found out about this event. Becca, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Chantel. Global Days of Service is a service movement that's taking place this year from February through May, with each month taking a closer look at a specific social issue. Many of you might be familiar with the traditional Global Days of Service. We've pivoted a bit to accommodate the global pandemic, and so on to make sure that we were providing service in a way that was safe and responsible and honestly extended, which I think is a great thing. Our goal is to strengthen communities across the globe and bring students, alumni, faculty, and staff together to help. We're offering educational sessions, DIY project ideas, community resources, and spotlights of SNHU community members. We have a bunch of different options for the rest of this month, especially for DIY projects after tonight. And we'll offer a new panel every month that we hope you'll join us for. And some more information is available on the alumni website. And we'll include a link at the end of this event as well to hopefully see you sign up for more. And I'm gonna pass it back to Chantel.
Fabulous, thank you so much. So as Becca mentioned, February Service Month sort of dedication is for hunger and food insecurity. So we thought it was important to take a quick glance at just hunger statistics, which you can see are staggering. So at least 50 million people are currently experiencing food insecurity directly impacted by the pandemic. Last year alone, 1 in 4 households experienced food insecurity. At least 10 million children are currently living in food insecure households, and about 8.9% of the population globally goes to bed hungry. So as you can see, food insecurity impacts communities throughout the country and the world. So it makes sense to dedicate the first Global Days of Service Month to this topic. So we're fortunate to have 3 panelists with us this evening from the SNHU community who will share with us their connections to hunger and food insecurity, talk about their experiences in the realm, and also provide ideas on how people can get more involved themselves. So just to give some oversight of the structure, so tonight's structure, Becca and I will be facilitating questions to our panelists, interview style. So panelists will make sure to call on you so you know which one of you we'd like to address the question first, but you'll all have the opportunity to answer. And as a reminder, as we're hearing from the panelists, feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom to ask questions and share reflections as they rise. We'll take those at the end and address as many questions as time allows. So we now have the pleasure to introduce to you our speakers this evening. So first up here, we have Dr. Maria Manus Painchaud. So Dr. Maria Manus Painchaud is a management consultant and former associate professor of organizational leadership in the School of Business at Southern New Hampshire University. Dr. Painchaud has taught courses in management and has been lead instructor in HR certificate training programs. Among other consultant programs over the last 4 years, Maria has taken on interim positions as a director of operations for a small law firm, VP of Human Resources for a major nonprofit financial institution, and special advisor to the financial and HR director for a global high-tech manufacturing company. In her previous management positions at a major New Hampshire law firm and a leading New Hampshire electric utility, she was the point person overseeing the planning and execution of revised compensation systems, 2 major technology conversions, as well as numerous upgrades, and creating a training and development program for team leaders. Additionally, Dr. Painchaud provides consulting services to both profit and not-for-profit organizations, focusing on strategic management, succession planning, strategic human resource management issues, and leading and managing change. She has served on numerous not-for-profit boards holding leadership positions, as well as having been selected for several community service recognition awards. So welcome, Maria.
And next, I'm going to introduce Barbie Izquierdo. She's an SNHU student and is a nationally recognized expert on food insecurity, poverty, and public speaking who puts a face to food insecurity and poverty in America. As a result, she has been a hunger advocate for over 10 years. Barbie can be found in the documentary that urges a call to action, A Place at the Table, and has been featured as a keynote speaker at the White House. She has spoken alongside President Joe Biden, has worked with Maria Shriver, and many others. Barbie has also been featured on BBC World News, CNN, Associated Press, Washington Post, People Magazine, and much more. Barbie is fighting for substantial changes to end food insecurity so that her children and their children won't have to choose between feeding themselves and paying a bill.
And our third panelist for this evening is Mary Lizie. So Mary Lizie is a senior instructional designer at Southern New Hampshire University. She is also a coordinator for Parkside Community Garden in Manchester, New Hampshire. Parkside Community Garden creates a safe, fun, and healthy community garden space in a food desert. This garden allows residents and community members to access healthy and affordable, freshly grown food. Welcome, everyone.
All right, I'm gonna get us started with the questions tonight. We'd like to start just with everyone introducing themselves and sharing a little bit more about their background. If you don't mind telling us about yourself, your work, what organization you're involved in, and how long you've been involved, anything else you would like to share about your connection to this social issue. And if you don't mind, Maria, I'd love to start with you.
Wanted to make sure I was unmuted. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be back at Southern New Hampshire University, my old stomping grounds. I have been involved with the Capital Region Food Program for 44 years. It has been in existence for 47. So I was just a child when I started. Not really, but that's okay. You heard my background. I have a pretty eclectic background. I've been in law firms, real estate, electric utilities, different management firms. I've done a lot with human resource management. But simultaneously, in 1974, the Capital Region Food Program started as the Holiday Food Basket Project. And that project was for Concord only, and it was at holiday time only, providing a box of food for a holiday meal for people in need in the Concord area. That first year, they serviced less than 100 families. The program has grown over the years with a recognition that many people have to make decisions between buying food, providing medical needs, prescriptions, fuel assistance, all of that kind of stuff. We also know that our partners, such as the social service agencies, work really hard with fuel assistance programs and gift programs and all of that, so that at the holiday time, they're overwhelmed. The concept behind the Capital Region Food Program is at holiday, we work directly with recipients. We have 50 agencies we work in collaboration with, and they take in applications, and then we turn around and we deliver directly to those recipients. We have, at the time of the highest economic challenge in the New Hampshire area, we serviced about 2,500 families. On average, we do about 2,000 families at holiday time. This year was unusual with COVID, and I'll explain that another time, but bottom line is we take over the National Guard Armory in Concord, and for 10 days, we do a just-in-time operation. We build 2 boxes of food, one that has all the standard items in it, staple items, non-perishable, and the other that has the holiday meal. There's enough food that's given to every family that will sustain them for a nice holiday meal, plus 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, depending on the size of the family. This program started out as just doing 1 box, went to the 2 boxes because we recognized that a lot of kids were out of school during the holiday time, and that also people were really in need and some people were housebound. There's been a lot of focus with hunger insecurity, with food insecurity and hunger in regards to children, and it's really important that we pay attention to that. But New Hampshire is a silver tsunami. We have a lot of elders, And that elderly population is one that we have to pay attention to as well as the children. So over the years, the Capital Region Food Program has evolved, and we added on in 1992 what we call our year-round distribution project. Our year-round distribution project purchases caseloads of food and gives them to our partner agencies, the food pantries, the soup kitchens, the social service agencies, that in turn give directly to the recipients. There was no need for us to reinvent the wheel when they were doing such a great job, so we thought it was critically important to work in collaboration and cooperation with them, taking the burden off of them at the holiday time when they're so stressed and have so many other requirements at that time, but the rest of the year to support their great efforts. This program is extremely unique. It is a standalone 501c3. It is all volunteer. There's no paid staff. There's no administrative costs. Every dollar that is donated to the Capital Region Food Program goes for the purchase of food. Anything costs associated with the operation is either underwritten, in kind, or as part of a strategic alliance. There are a lot of strategic alliances that this program has developed over the years, and it has afforded us the opportunity to continue to work in that way. That's what makes it so unique. That's why we have been very fortunate in support. We have weathered, because we used the National Guard, Army, and Concord. We have weathered 9/11. We have weathered the downturn in the economy, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, all of those things that we had to regroup in how we were going to execute our programs. So with the pandemic, we had to rethink what we were doing. Long story short, I have been involved with this program for 44 years. I have had a leadership role, a management role in it for 33 years. My father was the founding chair of the Capital Region Food Program. He passed away at a very young age, and at that time, the board had to make a decision: do we continue or organized abandonment? And there were a number of members on the board that said, let Maria take it and let's see what happens. And as it's gone, I've been involved, my children have been involved, my family, extended family, we're all involved, because it is important to care about the basic need of making sure people are fed and clothed and sheltered. Is that what you needed from me?
That was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much. No, it's great to hear that background and the incredible work that your group is doing. So thank you. I'm going to next toss it over to Barbie, if you don't mind sharing about your background, your connection to food insecurity, professionally, personally, whatever you want to share with us.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As they've stated, my name is Barbie Izquierdo. I'm originally from North Philadelphia. I have been involved as a hunger advocate for the past 13 years. I got introduced to this work because it was my life. I grew up in a very hard, rough, dangerous neighborhood, and food insecurity was a part of my everyday, and how not only myself, but my friends, my neighbors grew up, and we just thought it was normal. As I started to get older, I started to realize that a lot of what I read as far as what people would consider a welfare queen and who I was, I didn't identify with that definition. And so I got tired of just living in this life and being judged and not even, before people give me an opportunity to speak. And I just started complaining to anyone who would listen about what it's like to be in a welfare office and have someone tell you whether or not you're good enough to receive assistance. And, working, trying to support your family, and no matter what, cost of living goes up and minimum wage doesn't. And fortunately and unfortunately, the hardest moments of my life were captured in a movie called A Place at the Table. In that movie, you will see my struggle with feeding my kids and paying my bills. And you also see my struggle in fighting to end hunger. I use my story to advocate. I testified at Congress. I've spoken at the White House. I have shared my story at the Moss Storytelling in New York, and national conferences and things of that nature. But I don't offer statistics, and I'm already about to cry. The hardest part about doing this work is exactly this, going, I mean, it's a little easier right now because I can only see 6 people and not everyone in the room, but it's hard to get in front of a group of people and say that I've been hungry, and that if you look me up, you can see how bad it's been, and the conditions of the house that I lived in, and how no matter how smart I feel because of the way I look, there's just certain rooms that I can't get in. I am fortunate enough to say that I've found opportunities and have met incredible people who have given me opportunities to share my story, to help speak up for people like me who don't want to be a welfare queen, who don't cheat the system, who work hard and try their best to be a representation of all the girls who think they're smart enough but just feel like they're not seen. No, I'm okay, thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like in a public place crying like a weirdo, so please excuse me. But yes, so through sharing my story, I think that I've been able to help people see that people who are of low income are just like you, and that you know, sometimes it just takes being around the right people to thank you, feel like you can accomplish something. Doing this has been very difficult because in this documentary, as I said, not only do you see my life and my struggle, but you see my struggle in trying to feed my children. So for the rest of my life and their lives, you know, I had to think about how would this film affect them? Are they going to be bullied in school? Are people going to understand that I did this because I want changes? And right now, what I've been trying to do is to, you know, during COVID, it has it has been a little easier to raise awareness because COVID affects everyone and anyone. And schools being shut down have affected so many families being able to just feed their kids. And like, even for myself, I wish that I can say after being in a movie that my life has completely changed and that I'm not living in a dangerous neighborhood, or that I, you know, can open my fridge and that food is always there, but that's not the case. And, you know, I think that doing things like this and making myself so vulnerable can make people see that, you know, unfortunately, hunger is a relatable issue, and that sometimes because people don't talk about it, they will never know that you're right next door. So yeah, I'm gonna try to stop crying. You guys can go to the next.
Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share with us. And I have full confidence that, you know, your story is hitting someone tonight, myself included. And we appreciate you, you know, putting a face to something that we know happens. But I think it can be easy to ignore. And I really appreciate you being a part of our panel and sharing tonight. I do want to share, there's a bunch of messages that are coming through the Q&A to tell you how amazing you are. One says, "You are not a weirdo, like you said, Barbie. You are an inspiration. We appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story with us." And there's definitely others that are coming through. So thank you for sharing that. Mary, I'm sorry to make you follow.
Oh, God, goodness.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about your connection to hunger and food insecurity and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, sure thing. That is a hard act to follow, Barbie. Thank you very much for sharing. So I'm a mom, and my daughter is at college now. She just started college this year, but we've been living in the same neighborhood all her life, and the school is very close by. And I used to be a volunteer at the school, and we had all kinds of connection with the school, and all kinds of different people too. There's a lot of I think it's in the school here in Manchester, I think it's 85% of the population is takes school lunch, for free or reduced school lunch. in this school. So I see all kinds of different people, and I recognize people who are like me in so many ways, but not like me in that I have never experienced food insecurity. And in fact, when I first started living in this house, there was a grocery store that was a 10-minute walk from my house. And then a few years later, the store closed, and it wasn't a big deal for me because I could get into the car and drive for 10 minutes, and it was really no inconvenience for me at all. Whereas there were people who were in my neighborhood who no longer had the ability to get a bag of groceries, who had to get on a bus, and if they were working, they couldn't get on a bus because it's very restrictive, that the transportation systems aren't very accommodating to people who work these different hours. But after a while, my daughter stopped going to the local school and went to a different school, and I still wanted a connection to the community. It's harder to volunteer at the school when you're not an at-home parent. So I was looking for a way to help out, and there's a big plot of land next to the play area where the middle school is, and I thought, well, gee, what can you do with that? There's already a playground. How do you get people together? And I did some research and started talking to some people, was able to find a really good, helpful connection to say, well, you know what, we can make a garden. So we started about 4 years ago to get, literally grassroots, tried to get things rolling, to get the garden going. We've had limited assistance from the city of Manchester, but we have had a huge amount of, a small number of very strong community activists who were able to get the money, get the people, and get the shovels into the ground. Oh, I seem to be frozen, but I'm still here. And we were thrown for a loop by the pandemic as well. Our big plan last fall was to have people from Global Days of Service come and finish putting in our beds and invite the town to come and plant. And as it turned out, we were not able to have a public community garden. We ended up having what they call a production garden, meaning a smaller number of volunteers did all the planting and all the watering and weeding, and and then the harvesting. So that's been our experience with the garden.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, guys. I realized I didn't say what I'm involved with now because I was too busy crying.
That's
So
okay. Jump in.
Really quick, I'm sorry. So I am currently the Community Empowerment Manager at Hunger Free America. So after 13 years of doing this sort of work for free, basically, I found an organization that values my lived experience and has given me so many opportunities to work with people with lived experience, and also try to bring them to a national level to be able to speak and share their story and testify at Congress. So what I'm currently working on with Hunger Free America is looking for those people, no matter where you are in the country, who just have a story to tell, might not know how to say it, know that they're tired of their circumstances, or know of someone else who may want to share or have a unique experience, so that we can work together and try to make policy changes so that this can stop. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you jumped in and shared that. I'm going to hand it to Chantel for the next question.
Yes, absolutely. So you all have kind of spoke to this, and thank you all for sharing your connections. It sounds like everyone really has a real personal connection to this space in terms of food and hunger, food insecurity and hunger. And so we all know that, COVID-19 has had an impact on a lot of things. And so before COVID-19, food insecurity was said to be at its lowest since the recession, but it was still at like 37 million people that it was impacting. So it's still a significant issue, but now those figures have increased drastically. So, I would love to hear a little bit about how, COVID-19, the pandemic, has specifically impacted your own work with food insecurity in sort of the organizations you work with. Mary, would you like to start first?
Sure. Well, as I said, we first off, it is the case that having a community garden really is only dealing with a very small wedge of hunger, because obviously in New Hampshire you can only grow so many kinds of things, and you can only grow and provide food for a certain part of the year. But we do know that since it is hard for people to get nutritious food, that's a garden is a great way to get nutritious food. So we were hoping to get a very direct, immediate effect in our neighborhood with the people who, the people who live across the street could actually create their own food and benefit from it, and benefit from the community situation. And it got a little more dispersed than that, with having we actually had a couple of harvest days where we all came in and brought the food to several different places. We did bring it to the food bank, the food bank in Manchester, but we also grew herbs that we gave to restaurants, because we know that some of the restaurants in the area are actually they're often involved in supporting the community by feeding the community occasionally. So we know that by providing them with herbs, it makes it easier for them to keep their business going, to keep people employed. And as I said, hunger is sort of only a wedge of the whole inequity and poverty issue. When we gave to restaurants, we were actually providing people with the opportunity to keep their businesses running so people could continue to pay their own bills.
Absolutely, because as you mentioned, I mean, that the pandemic has sidelined so many workers. And so that's an interesting way, like you mentioned, it's just a small part of it, but it impacts in so many ways. So that's amazing, and sort of creatively sort of working through and being able to make sure all of the food is able to get to a place where it can be used and sort of in this whole sphere. So amazing. Maria, would you like to share next?
I may go off on a tangent that may not answer your question, so
Sure.
forgive me on that.
Tangents are welcomed.
Forgive me. So first, for context setting for me, I think it's important that people understand it's difficult to define food insecurity. Okay, food insecurity has been tied for years to poverty. And then the U.S. Department of Agriculture defines food insecurity in two ways: low food security and very low food security. And when we talk about food insecurity, it isn't that somebody doesn't have food at all every minute of the day, every day of the week. It could be a meal here, it could be a meal there, it could be several times a month. That would be low food security. Very low food security is where people are really suffering and they have maybe one meal a day, right? So keeping it in context, it's very hard to say one size fits all, and there isn't anything that's one size fits all. It is a very complex problem. I think people need to understand that we all, as citizens, have a duty and responsibility to help our neighbors, and how we do it, there's a plethora of ways of doing this, right? So with us, we recognized that there was already some infrastructure in place in our community, and to duplicate efforts was futile, and it was foolish, because we weren't able to maximize those minimal resources. There are people that are experiencing food insecurity, and it resonated to me when Barbie was talking, because some people don't qualify, aren't eligible according to the rules of the federal government, but they need help. And so that is where a lot of these food pantries and soup kitchens and social service agencies have some flexibility. It's where our organization, we don't ask. If you're saying you need something, we'll support you, we'll give it to you, we'll work with you on that. There are kids in school that do not qualify for free or reduced lunch, but they need help. And the issue that we're dealing with, what makes this very complex, is there are a number of protections in place, right? So the food service workers at school know who these kids are, but they can't share that information. The school nurses know who these kids are, but we can't go to the school nurses and say, all right, put us in contact with. So there are privacy issues that we have to be cognizant of and figure out a way around them so that we can do what we need to do, support people, but do it in a way that shows humility and dignity. You don't want to make people feel that they're less. They just need a help. And hunger, food insecurity doesn't care what your race is, what your color, your religion, your national origin. It doesn't care about any of that stuff. All it cares about is, are you getting food in your stomach? But one of the challenges that we're finding is that there's a lot of great things going on in different communities throughout the country, throughout the world, but people aren't talking to one another. In 2016, the Capital Region Food Program did a joint task force with the city of Concord, the mayor for the city of Concord, to look specifically at childhood hunger, because people were using anecdotal references that we had a major issue in Concord with childhood hunger. And come to find out, there were all kinds of activities and initiatives going on that were helping that population and that segment, but nobody was sharing information. So one of the biggest challenges we have with hunger and food insecurity is sharing information, communicating effectively with one another. And when COVID hit, I'm taking the tour of Europe to get to where I want to go. When COVID hit, right after the World Health Organization announced that it was a pandemic, we got contacted by one of our national grantors. And Marlene said, what are you guys doing for children? We've got to take care of the children, all of this stuff for the children. And we were like, wait a minute, time out. And the reason we took a breath was because we knew, based on the task force that we had done, that there were programs in place that they implemented during vacations and summertime. So we wanted to see what our different school systems within our catchment area were going to do before we went ahead and launched a program that might be duplicative. As it turned out, that in our area, those school districts and those school systems, the food service people had already gone ahead and put it into place to make sure those kids that were receiving free and reduced lunch were going to be taken care of. So that was in place. So reallocate those resources. We turned and we looked at the elders. We have a lot of elderly housing in Concord. We have a lot of low-income elderly housing in Concord, and we work closely with the Concord Housing Authority. Contacted them and said, okay, what do you need? What do you need for us to give you? How can we help you? What do you want us to do? The shocking piece of this was they didn't have the infrastructure in place to take the food and get it distributed. So what I'm trying to communicate here is that, yes, COVID has been a benefit in some respects to heightening the awareness and the import of food insecurity, and we need to do something about it. But it's not a quick fix. It's not an easy fix. We need to get people together who have a piece of this, and how do we work collectively and collaboratively to deal with this issue? We've got a wealth of wisdom and information. If we would just share it, I think it would go a long way to helping chip away at this problem.
Absolutely. And that makes perfect sense in terms of thinking about like not having people spin wheels on the same kinds of things and really distributing and sort of communicating what everybody is doing. So it's sort of all encompassing. That makes a lot of sense. And like you mentioned, COVID makes it a little challenging. Well, a lot of things, a lot of challenging, but in terms of communication, creative ways like like right now we're virtual paneling, but creative ways to get to people and still connect them and communicate. So absolutely. And Barbie, how about you in your world?
In my world, I would say COVID definitely has helped raise awareness on the topic, and it has forced people to acknowledge that accessibility and affordability are also problems, because that's exactly what we're facing with the vaccines. We're trying to, just make sure, just everything related to COVID, we have had to look for new ways to have food distributed. Most people, especially the elders, have been having trouble with getting around to go shopping and risking their health. So it has helped to make the issue more relatable, but that isn't something that is a good thing. There's more people suffering now than ever, and there are more people afraid because of the pressure of society that they're supposed to live how everything, unaffected, and everything is fine. And um, what I can say is that more people in my world are beginning to show how fed up they are and feeling all of this despair, all of the anguish, all of the stress of trying to figure out which bill to pay, or what to skip in order to buy groceries. Um, and I think that it's also have given people like me an opportunity to come to the table, because people are like, okay, well, now what? We've tried this, we've tried that, we've tried this. So who can help? Who has a solution? How can we work together? So it's been helpful for me to be able to continue to share my story, to raise awareness, to use the film as a tool, to teach people all over the world about this issue, and to show people how they can get engaged, how they can make changes in their own community, how they can affect people, how they can begin to see the warning signs of people who are food insecure in their own neighborhoods, because the as I said, like their true colors are starting to show more. People not having the access of as easily being able to go outside has you thinking more, and hopefully, making people think more would also have them want to engage in becoming a part of the solution, and really thinking about what's it going to take to stop all of this, and how we can all work together as people who are local, work together with organizations, with the government, families, everyone.
Absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned, it's helpful to also have sort of a personal story. Like you mentioned, it's like, these are the things that I've seen, and these are the things that I can show you that you can look for. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just finding creative ways to continue to sort of share that story, and like you mentioned with your film and all those pieces. So definitely. Perfect. So Becca, I'll pass back over to you.
Awesome, thanks. I know we got a little bit of a late start, but it's hard to believe there's already only 10 minutes left of our session. I could keep this going for a very long time, but we're going to try to be mindful of everyone's time. So I'm going to jump to asking a little bit more of how you would recommend people get involved, people who have an interest in helping with this issue in their own communities or on a larger basis. What steps would you recommend someone takes? And or what do you wish someone knows before they get involved, before they dive head first, or how they make that decision to get involved? So I'm gonna throw it to Maria, if you don't mind jumping on that one.
Okay, happy to. So I think sometimes we get caught up in, I want to volunteer, I want to get involved, I want to give out food, I want to do this, I want to do that. And COVID has presented some real challenges. We usually use 1,000 volunteers with our Holiday Food Basket project. We had to pivot, retool, and we used 30 to execute the program, change the whole model on it, because our main concern was making sure we were keeping people safe while we're getting the food out to the people who needed it. But yes, you can donate food. Yes, you can get involved with the community gardens or with different types of organizations. But please don't forget that all the nonprofit organizations, they work on shoestrings. And so your talent and your expertise in marketing, in accounting, in financial management, in operations, logistics, that's very valuable to these organizations. And many of them have committees that they would love to have community members be involved in. As you get involved in those committees, you become more and more knowledgeable about the challenge of food insecurity. You become more and more knowledgeable about what that organization is doing and how it's working with other organizations, or what opportunities are in the community or the greater area to expand and help more. So I think sometimes we get hung up on, I want to volunteer for the food bank, or I want to volunteer for the food pantry, and that means I'm going to give out food. It doesn't necessarily mean just giving out food. It doesn't necessarily mean doing just a food drive. Many people this year got creative because this is the first year with the Holiday Food Basket Project. We could not accept donated food. We didn't have the capacity to quarantine it and then to sanitize it in order to redistribute it. So we couldn't accept it this year. In the past, we would accept close to 8 tons of food at Holiday and redistribute it. So you have to think about those things. The food pantries had to look at different ways of sanitizing or delivering or all of that. A lot of the food pantries were concerned because they didn't want to expose people. So you've got a double-edged sword here where people want to volunteer and some organizations are being hesitant about it because they want to keep people safe and want to follow social distancing rules and all of that type of thing. But at the same time, there's ways in which your knowledge on technology or marketing or anything like that would be even more valuable to organizations given the situation that we're in now, helping them to pivot and use different media and mediums to get their message out, to make sure people are aware of what's available to them, to look at ways in which to access or deliver. You know, dropping off food, that would be helpful too. So check with your various food pantries, soup kitchens, social service agencies. You have Volunteer New Hampshire that you can check with. You can also look at the Center of Nonprofits. You have a lot of valuable resources on the internet that can tell you about different food banks throughout the country, throughout the world, that are looking for volunteers too. So do the research. And I think you'd be surprised at what opportunities are available to you.
Thank
Really,
you.
I'm going to interject really quickly because that was a perfect segue. And to your point, Maria, there's so many opportunities to leverage your skills. And one of the DIY sites that we have for Global Days of Service this year is actually with Barbie is with Hunger Free America. So there's so many opportunities to do virtual pieces. So there's like finding, verifying food sites. There's a hotline that you can get involved with, food banking for food access. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities that you can still be a part of. That are sort of leveraging, like you said, a little bit differently, just to be able to still be able to help in that space. So I'm sorry to interrupt, Becca. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, that was the perfect plug. Thank you for doing that. Mary, do you mind sharing a bit about what you would recommend? I know we do have some local people who are here who would be interested in helping with the community garden, or your experience in general.
Yeah, you can certainly help with the community garden. That'd be great. So in addition to what Maria said and what Chantel said, if you go to an organization to volunteer, you will find other people who are interested not only in that particular volunteer opportunity that you're in, but a lot of times those people are tied in with other organizations, and you may find that you're there just to check it out, what's going on, and to help out, but you might find yourself connected with somebody who is involved in something that you're really passionate about. So even if it sounds like it's a one-off, I'll go see what's going on. You might find an activity that you really enjoy doing because, as Maria was saying, it's not all about moving boxes from here to there and serving soup. And there are phone calls and ideas and logistics and all kinds of things that you as a professional have skills in that can really make the difference.
Thank you. I bet you do get a few people who are interested in helping with the garden after tonight. I think so.
I hope so.
Chantel and I have no one else, but I really do think get some more volunteers there. Barbie, do you mind sharing?
Yes, I already took myself off of mute because I'm so excited for this question. All right. So if you're interested in volunteering with me personally, as Chantel said, you can reach out to me at Barbie Izquierdo at Hunger Free America. I have a couple of different projects that I'm working on. We're creating a national database of hunger partners. I am currently the project that I'm currently working on with Hunger Free America, in addition to finding the people who share lived experience, is to create a manual so that it's called Hunger Free America has something called a Food Action Board. And what that is a New York-based program where women from New York have already testified. So they had a manual. They've given it to me to look over to sort of add my lived experience perspective. So what we're trying to do now is find organizations not only that are hunger related and aren't hunger related around the country, so that we can find best practices from the programs that aren't doing hunger work, to make sure that we're learning from everyone, and so that we can collaborate with them in different fields that we're not already working in, and then find the hunger organizations that are doing these type of projects, so that, I apologize for the background noise, so that we can ensure, like Maria said, that we're not just duplicating the work. So aside from that plug, on a more personal note, what helped me is different things. So to have that heightened awareness of, like I said, recognizing the warning signs in your community. Talk to people, because I can assure you, no matter where you live, no matter where you come from, someone can relate to me. And we feel alone. We feel counted out. We feel worthless. We feel inferior. We have trouble looking people in the eye. We feel the pressure of the world on our shoulders and this constant obligation of trying to prove ourselves just because we came from families of low income, or we're trying to make it out of the situations that we are born into. I would also suggest finding out who your local council person is, who your legislators are, who your state representatives are. If there are any bills, any laws that you know of that are going into action, or that you want to find out more about, talk to them. Let them know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. When they're making budget cuts to the SNAP program, to the Farm Bill, to the Childhood Nutrition Reauthorization Act, understand that when they're taking money from these programs, you're taking food out of the mouths of children all around the country. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call them. On Google, you'll find plenty of scripts saying, hey, Congressman such and such, I hear that this bill's coming up. I don't agree because this and this and this and this. Make your voice heard. One of the things that I've learned in my experience throughout this film and speaking one-on-one with state representatives and legislators is that for every one phone call that they receive, they count that to be the thought of 400 of their constituents, just from one phone call. So imagine if we really call them and inform them of any, not even our hunger policies, any policy that you don't agree with. If we're sharing that this doesn't work for our community, then those are the things that are going to bring effective changes. And encourage others to speak out, not only listen, but let them know that they're worthy. Let them know that they have a voice. It's taken me 13 years to do this, and I can, say today that with all of the love in my heart and the struggle of my life, I'm planning on running for office. I want to make changes. I really want people to see that, like, this isn't a gimmick. This is something that I want to change, that I work hard for. And, hopefully I can make this dream come true, not only for myself, but to make sure that people of color aren't being discriminated against, that people who are economically different or financially different, so that they can understand that we're worth it, and that, with just a little bit of help, we can show the changes that we can contribute to society forever. So, yeah, volunteering is important, donating is important, but knowing that you are enough and being compassionate for others is something that cannot be replaced. Like I've said it, you know, being in a film where like my life was on display. I have to live with this for the rest of my life. You know, everywhere I go, I have people who recognize me, and there's that fear of like, oh, there's that mom who couldn't feed her kids. And I don't want anybody else to go through that. So anything that I can do, if you guys know someone who is struggling and is afraid to share their story, let them know that there's people like me out there just waiting to help them and to show them that they too have a voice and that they're not a victim of their circumstances. And if they push through the shame, that they can really not only change their own lives, but they can influence so many other people. A lot of the days that are really, really hard, I get by just because I go back and read messages from people who find me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and just tell me like, you don't know how much you've inspired me. So let's continue to do that. Let's share that. Like I wanna help the world find these inspirational leaders, because there's many of us out there. And as a final message, because I know how hard it is to get people like me to speak up, I had written something, just a little blurb, so I'm gonna read it because I just wanted to make sure that I got it out. So I wrote, "You deserve more than what you've been robbed of. The systems that have let you down. They counted you out before you even walked in the door. And our silence is their power. When the work is rushed, the first thing that's compromised is equity, equality, dignity, and respect. So let's take our time and work together and spread the message that everyone deserves to eat without begging, because we can really do this." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All of our panelists tonight were wonderful, and I am inspired by all of you and appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this panel, to give your time to SNHU and Global Days of Service and to share your stories. Barbie, I'm so happy to hear that you are going to take this to run for office, because you're certainly who we need speaking up for people. So contact information for everyone here. I put the website in the chat that hopefully you can see. You can also search online. You can find more information about Global Days of Service too, and contact information for the Office of Alumni Engagement at SNHU. I think I speak for everyone that would be happy to talk to any of you more if you have questions or thoughts. And Chantal, I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yes, absolutely. And I know we're on borrowed time right now, so I apologize that we weren't able to get to the Q&A. Thank you for all of you for sticking with us through our tech issues this I won't say this morning, but it felt like it was a long time ago. But the beginning of the session, thank you so much to our presenters for spending their evenings with us. Your stories have inspired us, and thank you to everyone who joined. I mean, the very first step to helping is learning about what's happening and how you can be involved. So you've taken the first step. So we hope that you'll be involved in the Global Days of Service moving forward. As Becca mentioned, all the contact information for our panelists, as well as Becca and myself, are here. So if you do have questions you didn't get to have answered, feel free to contact us or our panelists who are willing to help as well. And you'll see the next few sessions as well for the Global Days of Service March events, which will be Shelter, are coming up as well. So mark your calendars for that. And that is the website for the alumni, the Global Days of Service on the alumni website as well. So if you can check all those out as well, so you'll be able to see the DIY projects and how you can get involved. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our media services team who is in the background helping us out. And we hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thanks for spending your night with us.